The military authorities have announced a multi-stage general election, with the first phase planned for 28 December 2025 and a second phase in 11 January 2026. However, many political actors inside and outside of Myanmar view this as a process intended to legitimize military rule rather than a genuine democratic transition. Key political parties from the pre-coup have been dissolved or barred, and many potential candidates, activists, and elected representatives are either in prison, in hiding, or in exile. Large parts of the country remain active conflict zones where free movement, campaigning, and independent monitoring are impossible. In such a context, it is very difficult to imagine how the election could be free, fair, or reflective of the people's will. The junta may claim the election will be free and fair, but the appointed election commission structure raises clear concerns about bias and exclusion. With ongoing conflict and no genuine political freedoms, this election has no legitimacy and is widely regarded as a sham. Since the 2021 military coup, Myanmar has been experiencing nationwide armed conflict and deepening humanitarian crisis. Violence continues to escalate, and new laws, including those authorizing forced conscription, have been placed civilians at greater at risk. People across the country are facing airstrikes, mass displacement, economic hardship, and severe restriction on basic freedoms, including limited internet access. The justice system has lost its independence. Lawyers should be protected when representing clients, as their professional responsibilities cannot be equated with the charges faced by the accused. However, in Myanmar, many lawyers are being prosecuted simply for doing their jobs, with some still in detention. Hundreds more have had their license revoked and have been blacklisted from practicing. Communities continue to live in constant insecurity, facing arbitrary arrest, forced recruitment, and pressure to participate in the junta so-called elections. The military has also amended the penal code, adding provisions such as those related to genocide in ways that appear intended to influence future accountability narratives. Despite these extreme, difficult conditions, local communities and networks continue to demonstrate remarkable resilience, supporting one another and striving to uphold dignity, rights, and justice wherever possible. Control is highly contested and very dynamic. The military still holds the main cities, core administrative centers, and many strategic routes, but it has lost significant territory to resistant forces and ethnic armed groups, especially in border and rural areas. Some recent analysis report that the junta directly controls only a minority of the country's territory, and even in areas it claims to control. It often relies on heavy militarization and cannot guarantee basic securities or services. Resistant groups, in turn, control or influence many towns, border crossing, and rural zones, approximately half of the country's areas. Though they also face serious constraints and ongoing attacks. In short, there is no single authority that has effective, legitimate control over the whole country. In this context, I would like to stress for the international and regional audience, Myanmar is no longer in civil war situation. Since the coup, what we are seeing is a people defensive war, and many from the younger generation even refer to it as a revolution. It is not only resistant against the military junta, but also against deeply rooted corruption and patriarchal norms across all layers of society. The international response is not uniform. Many international and regional state communities have refused to recognize the junta legitimacy and have imposed targeted sanctions or limited engagement. At the same time, some neighboring countries maintain or even deepen contact with military authorities, often in the name of stability, border security, migration control. There is also a debate within ASEAN and among regional actors. Some argue for more engagement with junta, while others emphasize support for democracy and reject the planned elections. In the contrast, the chair of ASEAN expressed deep concern over the conflicts and dire humanitarian crisis in the country, urged all member states involved to take concrete action to immediately halt indiscriminate violence. So yes, part of the international and regional community are rebuilding relationships with one way or another, but often for strategic reasons. Information about Aung San Suu Kyi's condition is highly limited, as she has been held in prolonged incommunicado detention since the coup. Even her family's members can't assess whereabouts of Aung San Suu Kyi after conviction. What we know comes only through occasionally highly restricted updates. Given this lack of transparency, it is difficult and not responsible to speculate about her personal situation or her political futures. However, what is clear is that she remains a symbolic figure for many in Myanmar, regardless of political differences. Her continued detentions reflects the junta's broader pattern of suppressions, political expression, and dismantling democratic institutions. Any meaningful political transition will ultimately require the release of all political prisoners, including her. Myanmar's future will largely depend on two factors: the trajectory of the people's resistance movement and the international community understanding of this moment. The future will also depend on how we address long-standing structural issues: ethnic inequality, militarization, immunity and impunity, corruption, and deeply embedded patriarchal norms. If these root causes are not confronted, any political transition will remain fragile. Despite this suffering, Myanmar people continue to show extraordinary resilience. That resilience, combined with strong community-based leadership and new political imagination from the younger generation, gives me cautious hope that the country can move toward a more inclusive and rights-respecting future with ensure justice to be served through judicial reformation with and accountability.